Getting ready to fire up the 2022 Lumberjack season. We're looking forward to it. 20, we did not have a season because of the pandemic. 21, we had a shortened season. Now that hopefully we're on the tail end of the pandemic, we're really hoping that we can blow out the 21st season in 2022, have a lot of fun events for the entire family as well as great baseball. Unfortunately though, it's not cheap, and there are a lot of opportunities to get involved. Being a house parent, that's a huge, housing for these kids is a huge obstacle. Making sure they have a good place to stay. Sponsorships from organizations and businesses help operate, and that's everything from transportation to if we've got to house them and buy furnishing, uniforms, all the way down the line. What we'd like to do this year is organizations in the community, get them involved however we can. If they can't do an actual sponsorship, members and their organizations might have housing that we could utilize. We could create a night for a different organization and have the organization be there and greet people coming into the game. Like I say, we're looking forward to a great season. I want to thank each of you for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to, are you the general manager? I think Mark's at the same level I am, so
do what I'm told.
That's it. I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
So most of you are familiar with the Valley League that are here. Some of you aren't, so I'm just going to kind of catch you up on what we are. Because, you know, I hear on the street all the time maybe something that we aren't. We're not a semi-pro team. We're not a minor league team. We're a summer college baseball team, which means the players don't get paid. The old rule was they had to have played a year and have to have a year left in their college eligibility. They have done some changes now to where we can take a rising star high school senior. We had 2 of them last year that are just going into college to kind of promote them as they go to college. There are not very many of them in the league, so most of them would have played a college season and have a college season left. The Valley League was founded in 1897, so it's been around a good while. It's undergone a lot of changes. It used to be an adult league. It used to be adults and college students and high school kids. So now it's a major league funded. I say major league funded. They pay for, basically they pay for our baseballs. That's which is a good expense.
Definitely don't have good hitters.
They're not cheap, but they do fund us in part. And just a few years ago, we went to a non-profit status. So if you're interested in these opportunities to be a host family or a sponsorship, it's all, we're non-profit, so however that fits into your taxes. We joined the league in 2001. I knew nothing about the Valley League until Garland Usler came here. He started talking to Alan Dressler and some of the people in the community, and that's how the Lumberjacks were born in 2001. And I had no idea what a college baseball player goes through. We've had many guys that come straight off campus to Covington and leave Covington and go straight to campus without being at home. It's a unique sport where those guys play baseball 12 months a year. It's a big commitment for them. How is the team built? In many ways. There's no draft. Basically, you build relationships with colleges. You build relationships with coaches. Your ex-players either tell their coaches what's good about coming to Covington, what's bad about coming to Covington, what's good about going somewhere else. So it's not really a draft process. It's really a go out and find somebody process. We have 47-ish players under contract for this year. The roster limit is 35. You might think that's a problem, but that's not a problem because out of those 47 kids we have signed, we'll probably get half. You either have summer school, you either have a pitcher that's had a big workload in the spring, and his coach says he's not throwing anymore. That's been a huge issue in the last 10 years. It used to be you throw 80 innings in the spring, and you can still come out and throw 50 in the summer. Well, the coaches don't want to do that anymore. So the roster is a process that's ongoing from now until August 1st, basically. We're making changes pretty much every day. But you got summer school, you got coaches shut down, you got homesick people, you have somebody that misses their girlfriend. I mean, it's just all kinds of things that go on in building a roster. The league has 11 teams. We're ready to add the 12th one next summer. Culpeper is coming in the league, the Culpeper Cavaliers. So we're excited about our 21st season. We got a lot of good things planned. We've had 9 big league players come through Covington, which is astonishing that 9 players have played on Casey Field and in some way played in the big leagues. One of them might have been just a cup of coffee, or it might have been Jason Kipnis, who was in the league for 12 years, 13 years, whatever, long time.
Don't forget a country music star.
And a country music star. If you don't know of Adam Doliak, look him up. He played at Southern Miss, he played in the College World Series, and now he is a star. He is a country music star. He's on XM radio, and a very interesting character. Just got engaged. Really good dude. I went over and watched him at the West Virginia Fair. So a lot of these guys have fond memories of Covington, and I'm going to introduce you to 2 of them here in just a minute. Local players has always been a big part of us. And interesting, Brent was going to be here. He got tied up at work. Tristan Hensley, which is Brent's son, was a bat boy for the Lumberjacks for how many years, Cindy? A lot. Ever since he was like that tall. And last year he was on the roster. This year he's a player, a second-year player. So it's come full circle with him. And I'll talk a little bit about the host family program. Back on that table, there's a current roster, which I said, it's changing daily. There's a schedule back there. There's a packet on sponsorship information, and then there's a host family packet that Cindy put together. Cindy Durham has been our host family. Cindy and Al and the girls have been a host family since 2001. People ought to be beating down the door to go to their house. They've had 3 big leaguers in their house. Colin Cowgill, Rico, and Jason. But the host family program's huge. We hosted last year a kid that's from right outside of Los Angeles, California. And that was a very interesting summer because he was scared to death of the dark, the deer. It was a total culture shock for him, but something that he won't forget and we won't forget. As far as the program goes, I'll field a couple of questions. If you got questions about our program, about the team, about the baseball part of it, if you're interested in getting involved, whatever way you want to, whether it be a sponsorship, whether it be a host family, whether it be what can I do? I work on Thursdays, 1 day a week on Lumberjack stuff in Tommy's office down in Greenways. David's there all the time, so most of you guys have my phone number. So if you want to get involved, we'll find a way to get you involved. Believe me, we're not going to turn down any help. It does take a lot to run the team, a lot more than people realize, and we're lucky to have the Gardens that jumped on board when we needed help. I'm going to introduce 2 guys that are going to speak. I'm going to use a line from one of them. They both found love in the Cubs, is what they said. John Wilson. Most times a player will go to a town for the summer, and the next summer they're going to go somewhere else. Our guy that stayed in my house is probably going to play in Alaska this summer. So a lot of people want to see different parts of the country. John Wilson wasn't one of those, I don't reckon, because He was here in 2012, 2013, and 2014. John played at Eastern Kentucky University. Ended up graduating at Union College with a business degree. And like I said, he found love in the Cov. He's back here on Main Street now. He is a financial advisor for Edward Jones Investments. So if you got some spare money, John will take it and make you more. That's what he said. So I'm gonna let John come speak to you about his experience in Covington and the Lumberjacks. John Wilson.
I don't have much to go off of because I was here for 3 years, like he said, 2012, 13, 14. 2000, like you just mentioned, I came here in 12. I was supposed to go to Alaska in 2013. The contract ended up not working. It fell through. They had a spot for me here. And I ended up coming back. And I ended up having actually a pretty good year my first year. I batted over 300. My second year here, it went off a cliff because yes, I did. I fell in love in the Cov, and yeah, my batting average went off a cliff, and so did my playing time. But I've been with her for almost 10 years now. We got 2 children, and I don't want to get emotional, but. I would like this place. I remember I've got some fond memories in the Durham's house. Me and a good friend of mine, Andy Austin, who may be a country music singer. He's a rising country music singer. He's hitting up the bars in Nashville. Now that I know where this place is, it was the Cliffview Golf Course. Him and another buddy from Michigan. Andy was from North Carolina. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. We snuck out to the Cliffview Golf Course pond at about 1 a.m. and caught a few bluegill. Thank God we didn't get caught. But ended up coming back and cleaning them on your driveway. So I had an unbelievable experience here. I'm from a small town, Eastern Kentucky. Probably a little bit smaller than Covington, to be honest with you. I got the Gardens got me out of a reckless driving ticket. You know, so
He promised he'd stay here 15 years.
I promised I'd pull my time somehow. But I've developed a lot of tremendous relationships because of this place. Obviously, it's where I raised my family. I have a business here now. It's going great. And shoot, you can ask me anything you want to ask me, and I'll tell you anything you want to know. So,
who was the first person you met?
It was you. I pulled up, and coming from a small town, I pulled up. I stayed with Nick and Nancy Moga. I don't know if the Moga's host anymore right now. I know Nick's mom had gotten sick, but so I was pulling into Covington, and it was pitch black dark. So I was coming through, and I'm getting the road is now 220. But I was driving through it, and they told me which way to go, which actually took me by the paper mill. So obviously I smelled it before I got to the town. But I pulled up, and I was like, gosh almighty, look at all these lights. Yeah, this city is huge. This place is massive. It's huge. And I drove by it, and I was like, hold on now, them ain't houses. You know, and there was obviously buildings and boilers and a huge factory. It seemed like it went on for miles. And I finally got up to the top and made my way down to clear water, which is where they lived at. And they ended up telling me that obviously the paper mill was the biggest paper mill probably on the East Coast. And thank God for the paper mill. That's where the majority of my business comes from. But yeah, you were the first person I met. I went down there the second day to the field to check it out. He was down there doing some things. Just wanted to take a look around, and he told me at one point in time, used to be a minor league team. And Bruce Bochy, who coached for the Giants, won 3 World Series, coached here, which is awesome. And so it's got a lot of history. I ended up playing with some guys that ended up signing free agent contracts. They ended up getting drafted. I don't think none of them made it, but the rumor was if you wanted to get drafted, you stay with the Durhams, right? So pretty much. But once again, I can't say enough about you people. You've been great to me. You got me at tickets. you took me in.
Got you love.
You got me love. You fed me. So my kids are. So that's pretty much all I got.
The second young man I want to introduce, we've developed a little bit of a personal relationship. I've been in all aspects of the Lumberjacks, broadcaster, part owner, you name it, clean bathrooms, whatever we do, we do. But we were in ownership at one time. It was a group of us, and Tommy was in that group. Larry Schottmeyer, Boo Boo Whitehead, Jason Hemmentaler. We all got together and we owned a baseball team. Well, we got late into the year in 2009, and we didn't have a coach. So somehow, and I don't even know how we heard of this guy, named James Conrad. Okay, we'll talk to him. So Boo Boo and Jason Hemmentaler and I met James Conrad at the Western Sizzlin'. We showed him a good time at the Western Sizzlin'. But we interviewed him. Pretty much decided. We hired him on the spot. He pretty much was only our only option at that point. But and little did I know that I was interviewing also my son-in-law. He married my daughter Erin. They've been married 8 years, have 2 sons, and are back in the area. He lives right across the street. So another guy that found love in the Cove, I guess. But James is from Columbia, Maryland. Played college baseball at Lafayette College. 3-time All-Patriot League outfielder. Scholar Athlete of the Year as a senior. James is, I always made fun of him because we didn't have a very good year that year. So maybe, he's been a better son-in-law than he was a coach maybe. But my last thing to introduce him was he was frequenting what was called the red zone, or what was it called then?
It was Belly Up.
Belly Up. Yeah. Belly Up, which is now the rail. So James was frequenting the rail, or the Belly Up, and he met a waitress there, and he didn't know who she was. And somebody told him that was one of the owner's daughters. So a couple weeks later, James came to me and said, "What would it take for me to be able to ask your daughter out?" And at that time, we were in a slump. We weren't playing very well. And I said, "James, we were going to Northern Virginia. We were going to play at, what was it then?
Winchester.
Winchester.
It was Winchester.
I said, "You win that game, and I'll think about it." Well, Aaron and I went to Washington.
No pressure.
Washington that day, watched the Red Sox. I'm a Red Sox fan. We watched the Red Sox and Nationals. But then come back through Winchester, watch the Lumberjacks win, the success story. Well, coming back through Winchester, we pull in the parking lot, 3rd or 4th inning. James Conrad is seated in the parking lot, like sitting in the parking lot. And I got out. He'd already been ejected from the game. I think we lost 14-1. But I guess I felt sorry for him, and I let him ask my daughter out. And now I have 2 beautiful grandsons and a great son-in-law, James Conrad.
Well, Mark just stole my big finish there. But that's one of my favorite stories to tell, actually. So I was a coach in 2009. Like Mark said, I'm from suburban Maryland. I lived halfway between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. From a very populated area. You can barely call it a suburb. It's a small city. I worked in downtown D.C. for 5 years. I took the train. I took the bus. I drove in that rat race, which is not fun if any of you have made that trip during rush hour. the point is I was just a name in the crowd, or a face in the crowd. Everybody was a stranger. That's just the way things were up there. I was passing thousands and thousands of faceless people every day, nameless people every day, people that I would never see again. And that's just how it was. If there was a just married sign on a car, or a fire at somebody's house, or a crime, or somebody won the lottery in your town, well, that's great, but that's about 30 seconds worth of conversation, because I don't know any of those people, and they don't know me. And that's just sort of the environment that I always grew up in, and that was the value system that I always had growing up. And from the moment that I stepped into town, it was a very different experience for me. Within 24 hours, I knew if I had a problem with the bus or the transportation, I was supposed to call Boo Boo. God rest his soul. But I also knew if I was going to call Boo Boo, I better be ready to laugh at myself, because he was going to crack a couple jokes at me, because his whole business was building relationships with other people. That's what he did. That's how he functioned. I learned that if I wanted to complain about the grass, I had to call Alan immediately. If I had a problem with the players, or we had a personnel issue, I needed to call Jason. If I had a problem with anything else, I had to call Mark. Took me less than 48 hours to realize you don't bring Mark Pfeiffer a Budweiser, you bring him a Miller Lite, because he's a Miller Lite guy. These are things that you learn about people when I stepped into town, and I was immediately building relationships in situations that I had never built relationships in before. I was learning things about people that I had never learned about things before. I would go to a restaurant, and somebody who had no idea who they would come, "Hey, you're the new lumberjack coach, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Well, yes, I am. Who are you?" And you got to have conversations. That kind of thing didn't happen when I was growing up where I was from. And so this was like, it was a new experience for me. I didn't know if it was a good or a bad thing, but it was definitely different. Totally new for me. And we had Tristan Hensley, who was our bat boy. He was like 7 or 8 years old at the time, and his mom's a magistrate.
Yep.
I went to college. All of my college baseball buddies are my best friends in the whole world. Right? I don't know that their mother is the magistrate, or that their sister has 2 kids. I don't know those things. And last week, I got on 2 or 3 weeks ago. I never get on Facebook. I happened to get on Facebook, and the first thing I saw was Tristan's first home run. He's playing at Emory and Henry. He's a sophomore. Just got his first home run 3 weeks ago. He's hitting third, playing second, hitting .340. He's doing great. And my relationship with him and his mother started when he was a 7-year-old bat boy for a summer team, a place where I, in theory, should have only been here for 3 months. Right?
You're going to die here.
So I was seeing people at the games, the same people, sitting in the same spots, cheering for the same people. I was learning about people's family. There were kids running around. I was getting to know their parents. Again, building relationships in places that I never had. And listen, you guys might all think that's very normal, but it is not. It's extraordinary to be able to go about your daily lives and have meaningful conversations and relationships with other people who, if I was in Maryland and I went to the gas station and saw the person working behind the counter, I wouldn't even think, I might not even say hello. But that doesn't fly around here, and I think that's just really, really cool. And a few years later, when I started to sort of reflect back on that experience of being in a smaller town, being in a community where everybody knows everybody else, it shattered my whole belief system. All the things that I thought were important growing up, all the things I valued in other people, the way that the people who I chose to spend time with. It really did. The traits you look for in a life partner, for example. So, and I'm not the only person that felt that way. I mean, I think that the Lumberjacks are such a special place because 95% of the teams out there, these guys, they're playing baseball all year. And instead of like most people getting to go home and see their family and high school friends, they go out all summer and they play all summer. And they go right back to school. I mean, they may get a week or two at home, maybe, in a good year. If your team is bad, you get to go home and not make the playoffs. By the way, we finished second that season. We were the runners-up. I don't know.
I'll check that record.
Yeah, you should. We were out there. And I know that, and the reason that's noteworthy is because when you get into the playoffs, most teams have a really difficult time keeping a whole roster because it gets to be the end of July, early August. People are supposed to report back to school. People just are done. People are so burnt out. The players want to go home and see their families. We never had a problem keeping a full roster. The players loved coming here. They really, I mean, and they felt the sense of community too, you know. And that just, you know, there are guys that, you got guys like, you know, speaking of 3-year players, we got guys like Junior Arojo, who was here for 3 years. People don't come to the same team for 3 years. Summer team, that is not something you do a 3-year deal. You don't do it, okay? You go, you play summer ball, you have your thing, you get your ABs, you throw your innings, and you go home. You don't come back to the same place the next year, and you certainly don't come back to the same place the third year in a row. That's not how it works. Covington's, the Lumberjacks are a little different like that. They get repeat players because people like coming here. They like being a part of something. You know, and that does, you know, and guys like Mark do a whole lot of stuff around here. But that's not Mark getting up one day, being really motivated and saying, we're going to build a sense of community. We're going to make people belong here. That's not a one-person thing. That's an everyone thing. That's the players talking to each other. That's not an artificial thing. You can't go to a player and say, we need to have a sense of team here for this summer at the Lumberjack. That's not how it works. It's when the players come in and talk to each other and they say, I've seen that same woman cheering for me by name, who I don't know what her name is, but she's been sitting in the same seat in the crowd for 10 games in a row. And every time I get up to bat, she's like, go Jimmy! And that's cool. And they shared that experience with other people. I guarantee you, at most of these guys, even at their college games, the only person cheering "Go Jimmy" when they get up to the bat is their mom, who's sitting out in the crowd, right? There aren't fans that are coming to these games other than for the top 25 or 30 schools in the country. At these college games, they don't have fans who they don't know coming out to cheer them by name and who know what they did yesterday and who recognize and say, that was a great double that drove in the winning run. That stuff is cool. You know, they come in and they say, wait, did you know we have sponsors? There's like 30 banners in the outfield. That's kind of cool. They talk to each other. You know? They come in, they say, you know, it has to do with the host families. It has to say, hey, you know, Durham's, it's kind of a nice place to stay. I kind of like them. They're pretty good. And coming from a 19-year-old, that's the highest praise you're going to get. So, you know, it's really nice when people say those kind of things about each other. They go out to eat at a restaurant. People come up and talk to them. People who they don't know, who they can connect with and build relationships. And then they start to feel like that they're a part of the community. And they love being here. And I think it's just such an extraordinary, special thing that the Lumberjacks and that Covington have going on. I mean, and when I say it shattered my whole belief system and made me reevaluate the things that I valued as important, I'm not blowing smoke. I mean, that is how I feel. That's truly how I feel. And that's why I'm living here now. You know, when Aaron and I first got married, we lived around DC in the rat race. And the first time I was able to, I went in and said, "Hey, I want to work remotely. I want to work from home. I still want, but I want to move to Virginia." They said, "Okay, fine." And so here we are. That was 2016, and now my kids are in school. You know, just like yours. So, if any one of those pieces is missing, if the kids don't have a good place to stay, if the ownership, if they don't feel valued by the ownership, if they're not making decisions based on what's best for the players, if they're not putting together a winning ball club, you know, if there's no fans at the game, if there's nobody cheating, if any one of those pieces are missing, the puzzle doesn't fit. The kids don't have that kind of experience. They don't want to come in here year after year, and it's not the same thing. Okay, which is why it really is so special what goes on. So, you know, I think that really, like, the people in this room, the people who were doing the same things as you were 10 years ago, those are the people that deserve the thank yous. Because you may not get that heartfelt thank you from a 20-year-old who's only here for 3 years, but I guarantee you, when they remember and they think back on this experience, it has a meaningful and a positive impact on all these kids' lives in a time when they are very when they are still developing and they're still learning, and those experiences are very, very meaningful for them to develop their own sense of their own value systems and things like that. So thank you very much. And so this is when I was going to make it a little lighthearted and tell you the story about how we got our butts kicked when I tried to take his daughter out on a date, but that story has already been said. So just to share with you guys one other really cool thing, one of my other favorite experiences from when I was with the Lumberjacks is Junior Rojo was here for 3 years, and his final season, he was such an integral part of this community and felt like such a member of the community that the Lumberjacks actually flew his father in, unknown to Junior, honored Junior on the field, brought his dad out. I don't know if it was a Hall of Fame thing, but this is a college summer baseball team. It's supposed to be a very transient experience, but we have a guy who's been here for 3 years, who loves it here, who feels like a part of this community and a part of this team. He's from Miami, Florida. He went to Florida International University. He's not a small town guy. He's not a guy who grew up valuing the types of relationships that we build here. And so, for the Lumberjacks to reach out, fly his father in, honor him on the field, and really sort of like say, give a thank you to Junior. It's pretty special. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So Matt's going to come up and say a few words in closing, but if you want to get involved in any way, like I say, I'm in Gardens on Thursdays. David's there every day. Just contact us. Sir, we'd love to have you be a corporate sponsor, but I know a lot of people aren't in positions to do that. Any way you can help, we could use the help. And if you can't help and you want to come out and enjoy 9 innings of wooden bat baseball like it should be played, the crack of the bat's way different than aluminum, believe me. Come out to the ballpark and just watch a game. It's a good place to go. It's a cheap date. It's a cheap night. Buy a hot dog.
It can turn expensive. When you got kids.
When you find love in the Cove, it does. But look me up. If anybody didn't get something from the table, we have all kinds of shirts and hats and stuff. Feel free to help yourself to something. Matt?
Mark, real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Excuse me, Matt.
Go ahead, Alan.
Thank you. I have a relationship that goes all the way back since day one. But I want to tell you the value of Lumberjacks to Allegheny Heights. First and foremost, with Crystal sitting there, it helps her sell. We have quality baseball to someone looking at locating in our area. Okay, we build these relationships. The Durhams, they've been to weddings and the Hammonds and all that kind of stuff with these kids. 35 new residents each summer in our community. That's a contribution to our community. 35 folks. With those 35 folks comes moms and dads and grandparents to Casey Field to spend nights in our motels and eat at Cucci's and all those fun things. The economic impact of that is very nice to Covington and the Allegheny Highlands. The support comes from out here. In the very beginnings, you can tell them we had about 1,000, 1,100 people down there in the very beginnings. We had an article in the Washington Post done on Little Covington, Virginia, because of all these folks coming to summer baseball. We have got to continue to support something that other folks would love to have. Culpeper is a prime example. It fell in my lap. We had just won a national award at Casey Field, and the Valley League was looking at expanding, and as God leads me right into Garland Usler, God bless him, me too, but here we are, 20 some years later. okay? And it's really cool, and it takes a community. And what these young fellows are saying about our folks in the community is not a fib. I've heard for 20-some years from parents all over, from California, Washington State, Louisiana's. Last year, some nice folks from Texas brought their kid in. I was the first one they met. It's the same story. They just love how we treat their kids. So it's compliments to all of us. But we've got to work hard at getting our host families. We've got to work hard at getting to ball games. And we've got to work hard at making it more than just 9 innings. It's got to be fun for me. Prime example, you'd love to come down. We used to do dizzy bats and all those fun things. We need something for your kids to do in between innings. All those kinds of fun things. So it's an Allegheny Highlands effort to make it continue to be a part of Allegheny Highlands. We don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose it. Again, I have a personal investment in it from the very beginning, but it is important, Valley League Baseball to Covington, Virginia. So parents, all that, thank you all very much. Good deal. Thanks.
Again, thank you all. It goes back to the old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we've got 35 to 70, 80 kids coming through here. It takes an entire community to do that. I wish you could give out rings for community support and welcoming the kids into this area and the parents, and the dedication that it takes to do this year after year from our host families and our fans and former players. I mean, we're a family. But we can't do it without the community. We need help. And the quality of life that these kids have when they come to Covington, small town, everybody knows each other. I didn't even appreciate it until I heard everything today. You just take it as, with a grain of salt when you're here, but coming from somewhere else, it really opens your eyes. We're very lucky. And like I said, I wish everybody that is with us could get a ring every year for what they do, because that's the most important part of this entire thing. It's easy to put a roster together when you look at housing and, where they're going to eat and what they're going to do. And we're so lucky to have it, and I can't say enough about that. As you can tell, we've already started recruiting bat boys. We've got already in training, so it never stops. But again, thank you all. By all means, if you have any questions, please let us know. Would like any other additional information, we'll be glad to get that. And please take some of this quality merchandise or swag off this table at the end of the day. But again, thank you all.